So I'm really, really pleased to be joined today by Rabbi Elliot Cosgrove. He's the rabbi of Park Avenue Synagogue, a very prominent synagogue, conservative synagogue on the east side of New York. And he's been a very important figure in, particularly of late, I mean, for a long time, but particularly of late on around Zohar Mamdani, but also about divisions among American Jews. And we do have very, very different visions about Israel, about Mamdani, and I'm really, really grateful that he was willing to take the time to come and discuss them with me. So, Rabbi Cosgrove, thank you so much for doing this.
It's great to be here, Peter. Thank you for the warm invitation.
So, in your most recent Devar Torah, you said something I thought was really remarkable, actually. It struck me as a very vulnerable and honest kind of statement that I don't usually, one doesn't usually hear from public figures. And I found it actually quite moving. You said that I am in the wake of Mamdani's victory, where polls show that he perhaps won a third of the Jewish vote. You wrote, I'm faced not with an America that I hardly knew, but with a segment of the Jewish community it would seem I hardly know. And then you called for an authentic dialogue, meeting difference not with defensiveness, but with a spirit of inquiry and curiosity, which I really, really appreciate. And I guess as one of those Jews who supported Mamdani. Um, I thought I would just very briefly tell you how I see it, and then invite you to tell me how you would how that lands with you. And I was started by thinking about something you wrote in your book that I found very powerful. The book is called, for those who are not familiar with it, it's called For Such a Time as This on Being Jewish Today. And you write, every human being is created equally in God's image. No matter one's race, religion, or nationality, regardless of whether a person is a friend or foe, they are created in the image of God. As such, they are to be accorded equal and infinite dignity as befitting God's creation. And then I think about what Mamdani said in the first mayoral debate when he was asked about Israel as a Jewish state. And he said, I would not recognize any state's right to exist with a system of hierarchy on the basis of race or religion. And to me, his words were a kind of an extension of yours, that the theological principle is that human beings are created in the image, they are created equally in the image of God, and that the political corollary would be states should not have hierarchies, legal hierarchies based on religion or race or ethnicity, that we might have special affection for members of our community, being Jews or other groups, but that states should treat people equally. And that's for me why I agree that I don't support the idea of Jewish states or Christian states or Hindu or Islamic states. And so I'm curious how that lands with you for as someone who's interested in exploring these conversations between Jews who have different perspectives on Mamdani and more broadly on the idea of Israel as a Jewish state.
Okay, so there was a lot there,
Yeah,
Peter, and so let me start out with where you started out with
yeah,
is just gratitude and the warmth and the sentiment that I shared in my post-election sermon, which was really what you and I are doing right now, which
yeah.
is trying to seek out with curiosity, with understanding of not reducing people down to sort of talking points or derangement syndromes or hysteria or language which really runs being dismissive of other individuals. And as you yourself opened up with, there's no presumption. There's actual differences between me and you in what we believe. But and You're a good guy, and I'm a good guy, and I think we need to model something for the community, not just me and you, but to be exemplars for the kind of dialogue we're seeking. So,
Absolutely.
uh, look, that post-election sermon, there's so many things we can talk about. I don't know what we'll have time to get to about how it divided the Jewish community, how it really brought out some unseemly elements in the media, social media, where people were ad hominem attacks against people, and it revealed a fault line in the Jewish community, which actually your latest piece in Jewish Currents, I believe, about liberal Zionists voting for an anti-Zionist mayoral candidate. I think it was a very fine piece that really put your finger on something very important that I hope we get a chance to discuss. The For me, and I'll speak only for me here, I do believe that each and every human being is created in the infinite dignity and the equal dignity of God. And I believe, as I've made clear at other points of my rabbinate and recently in my rabbinate, that whereas one can hold that view and one can have concern for all of humanity based on the premises we've just established, one also, by dint of being human, necessarily prioritizes certain concerns over other concerns. And so whether that's, I don't pay for everyone's education, I pay for my own children's education. I relate to those in my immediate sphere in a way differently than I do the broad swath of humanity. We all make these choices all the time. We can't be human without making those choices, and that means as a New Yorker, as a Jew, and for me, that means also the sovereign state of Israel. That the claim of the Jewish people to their historic and indigenous homeland is a claim which goes back, if you really want to go back to Genesis chapter 12, if you want to, recount early Zionist history to the 1800s, the millennia. I mean, you can pick your starting points anywhere, or you could use a negative argument that a vulnerable, powerless, Jewish community over millennia didn't kind of work out so great, right? So we can take different tactics on it, but for me, that fundamental claim of a sovereign state of Israel is just as fundamental to me as, Torah, as God, or as any other tenet of my faith as a Jew. All the more so as a contemporary Jew that actually has the possibility, the promise, and the responsibility of, this isn't some abstract claim of exile in medieval times. This is real time. Now, having said that, we have a clash, right? We have a question of how to resolve it. For me, I always return back to the founding documents of the State of Israel as a Jewish and democratic state of Israel, which doesn't resolve anything. It just puts its finger on it that this is the conundrum of, does that, for me, that means that it's a Jewish state, Hatikva, whatever buses do or don't do on Shabbat, the character of the state is Jewish. It is the sovereign Jewish national home, and all of its residents should be accorded the rights of citizenship and to vote, access to the goods and services that a state uh, uh, provides all of its citizens. And I believe that project is very much in play right now. I think Israel falls short of that project, sometimes painfully so, repeatedly so. But the fundamental North Star of a sovereign Jewish state is a non-negotiable for me.
So, do you see a tension between the idea of a state between the idea of liberal democracy, equality under the law on the one hand, and a state that has a special obligation to Jews when not all of the people in the state are Jews?
Yeah,